Tuesday, February 24th, 10:14 a.m. Checking in with our trades, getting to the close of the morning. Looking at American Eagle right here. Again, yesterday closed a little stronger than I expected it to, or kind of hoped, I guess. But we did get a little appreciation up here. The spread being pretty much 30 cents through about the first, I want to say like 12 minutes, and then probably about 7 cents after that. And so a dollar figure, again, going up $350-ish, and then another $100 fluctuation this way. Currently sitting in the profit, a trivial amount, but we're trading the movement, not the dollar amount. The point being, a dollar figure I would have liked to try to preserve, but not price action that I wanted to jump around and attempt to. And certainly not a price action I thought was meaningful to. And so point being, just kind of held throughout the morning. Would have liked to try to preserve the dollars, but there was no real meaningful opportunity. And so still holding here, looking pretty good. We'll check back in here in a bit. Over on SanDisk, we had a little bit of stimulus. AMD came out and had some sort of new partnership announcement furthering the business. And so we look over here again. I have the exact quote from StockTwits. I think it's just their little AI summary bubble. As an actual consumer, the artificial intelligence is not all of that impressive. Again, if it's just like on Facebook Marketplace, hi, is this available? Automatically generated for you. It's not knocking my socks off. But we got some good news for this. Again, technology, AI, memory, how specific, what are we really talking about? But AMD had some partnership news with Google, and it has this appreciation pre-market, and the AI on StockTwits said it was surging. And so do I look at this price action and say this is surging? Yeah, no, not even remotely close. This is well within, again, the defined bound, or I don't call it a bound, but the defined trading action price range of the recent price action. And so, yeah, I would not classify that as a surge. But regardless, we get this news. It doesn't seem to be, it's one of these where it's like, again, to me, the momentum has already been here for I want to say memory specifically, but we can say AI more broadly. So that's, the momentum's already been here. And so each of these new news cycles has less and less impact, in my opinion. And in this case, I think the price action shows that. Again, you have a direct news story, and then price action change. Those are always pretty strong correlation to causation. So revisiting IBM came out yesterday. The stimulus that I did not know was the Anthropic, the company we've referenced, came out and said they have some AI writing code. And so that sold off real heavy. Did not trade it, but this is one of these where you have an established company, this kind of big, I would say this type of movement for IBM was substantial. Because again, when you're looking at, why is this thing, it's so janky sometimes. But like, this is a 3-year weekly chart. And so, I mean, you're looking, 2-3 weeks of huge, you're slicing through a lot of these momentum price action channels. And so a trade like this would have been good. Again, not just in retrospect. Obviously, I didn't take any trade. You can see over here is no green or red numbers. But a play like this for a well-established company after an extreme sell-off, again, any stock you're going to get some sort of relief after any sort of change. And I want to kind of make a rough definition of momentum as like the rapidity of change within a given time frame. And so I'll try to work on that a little bit, see if it makes any sense. But point being is just you have an abrupt movement from what would be kind of expected, and so those are like all of the tradable events. But point being, it's well-established company, sells off very heavily yesterday on some what I would consider pretty weak news, but certainly this is a substantial move where Scott Wapner is calling the Dow Jones yesterday nasty. He's like, it looks like we got a little unnastified today. But point being is that these are trades, the relief side of these trades, I do attempt to trade or like to, because then if it does just, bounce or your K-shaped recovery on a given stock, meaning it has this sharp decrease and then immediately goes back to like the previous action, kind of similar to when Trump came out and said the tariff talk, and we watched the brief blip, and then it goes, American Eagle went right back to where it was at. It's kind of like the reverse of that, I guess. You have a severe decrease and then pretty much immediate going back to where it was. I don't see that here, but this relief, right, this 220 to this 230, and that's very typical, I would say. If you have 10 stocks that are established companies with real revenue, infrastructure, and they have an extreme sell-off, I would say 75% of them have a relief pretty much the next day or like pretty quickly. And so you also see that again, they'll have an earnings and they'll sell off real heavy. And it's the inverse of the trade, where if you have a good earnings beat and you're appreciating pre-market, I like to short that. If you sell off really heavy and I think it's overdone, I like to try to play the relief. And so that's what happened on IBM yesterday. I didn't know what the stimulus was. This is a trade that, again, if I wasn't focused elsewhere, that I would have considered taking for sure. But we did nothing here. And so popping over to SanDisk, again, for this AMD, getting back to AMD, just the memory, was interested to see if this AMD news for Google, kind of testing to see how strong what I consider momentum waning over here in the memory section. And so to me, that's kind of, again, not as strong. This is a price action well within its movement range. Again, the 540 even up to like the 680 is kind of where I see this recent momentum channel. But regardless, we have this AMD news. These things are, poking up pre-market, and then as you can see, again, I don't even want to call this dramatic sell-off, just depreciation well within its established trading range, but the momentum is fading to me. That's kind of what this indicates. You get a little bit of news, but then again, we're back to the conversation I'm saying yesterday on these big companies. It's like the growth and how long these companies can stay around is not really established. There's no reason why they should die with these founders or good establishment teams. Not to say that all of them do, but point being, I just see the momentum fading over here. This would getting kind of itchy to call this a double top over here, but certainly, again, each day where we don't have continued appreciation similar to what has happened previously, meaning these chunks where you're going from $200 to $725 in from December 20, from Christmas to now. And so then again, that's already after, $50 a share up to about $250 to $300. And so I'm itching, thinking we're a little double top. Still not a stock that I really want to take any sizable position on. I have my 2 shares. That's pretty much my full share size here. But each day, with this action again, to me this is looking like a double top. But we will see, and we'll check in later. Overall, anything else that popped up or I've written down? Again, I have the Dow Jones unnastifies because I just heavily disagreed with the intensity of the verb from Mr. Wapner yesterday. But again, it's just it looks like a green or red candle that went down from 495 to 488. That's what that looked like to me. But then again, how the Dow Jones versus the S&P 500, right? How about the NASDAQ? All right, how about the QQQ on the NASDAQ? It's just again, we'll go through, again, the Grammys, the Emmys, the BAFTA Awards. I see they had a nice little outburst there. That's fun. but Brad's reaction to the composition and construction of the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, the Russell, I think that's going to have the same viewership as the Grammys. Reactions to all the outfits. And so we will do that here shortly. Again, anything else? AMD, we covered that. The Dow Jones. And then another buzzword that keeps popping up, again, bifurcation. We need to stop saying that pretty much immediately, as well as disintermediate. Pretty much logically, that just strikes me as you guys are saying disruption, right? It disintermediated, it disrupted something. That's what I'm picking up there, but we're going to put the disintermediate right in the illegal vocab word bucket. And so that is what I have for you today. Again, focusing on American Eagle mostly. We're back above 24. But this is, again, for reasonable levels for here, or again, just levels I'm watching again, this 24, like 30, 24, 30. This again, this weird floor that we've had before. But yesterday was a pretty sizable move with that break, and so again, just with the close into the 2350 would have been like the profit preserved area, and then there was no meaningful way to. I could have tried to jump around, but it could have worked for me and been like, yay, I did a good thing, or it could have immediately sold off and been like, wow, I feel silly. And so, regardless, this little relief, a $2 depreciation is sizable for American Eagle and sizable in relation to the previous movements. And so relief, it could be relief, it could be a bounce back to, getting some sort of appreciation into the earnings report. Not super thrilled with my entry, not sad about it. We're sitting right around it right now. And so we will check in later. With that being said, 10:25 a.m., and I will see you on the next segment. Tuesday, February 24th, 4:03 p.m. The market's just closed. Hey, Melissa Lee, the who's who of the financial world. Just checking in. I'm also at the Davos or wherever we're at. I'm out there too. But just checking in with our trading vlog, seeing where we finished up. We are looking at American Eagle. I went on a hike, or like a walk, so I did not see probably anything from like 130, 145 on. So it kind of seems for American Eagle, we just kind of drifted downwards a little bit. Again, no real movement. Effectively consider this one a sideways day. This might be actually a flat candle. Again, looking for those where it opens and closes at the same exact price. You get a little gray candle, but some people call it a morning star or whatever. If it's on an uptrend going to a downtrend, it doesn't matter. But regardless, stayed right below the volume weighted average price, kind of rejected that pretty sharply right at the close. But closing fluctuation didn't really mean much to me. Overall, just kind of drifted sideways. Market in general, again, looks like we got unnastified with Mr. Scott Wapner. But again, not much going on today. We have the State of the Union tonight. Probably some comments on some tariffs, I'm sure. So I'm sure we'll see a bunch of that. So comment on any reaction, not reaction, see how the market plays out. I don't know if we'll check in later today, but probably just tomorrow morning. But regardless, that's kind of like the big stimulus for tonight, certainly. For American Eagle specifically, I don't think we're still just kind of waiting on the earnings this week. Expect, again, a week before earnings just to kind of trade as is. There might be some lead up to the earnings. I don't think anyone's, waiting on their becking or, all anxious about American Eagle. But there's no real momentum. Point being, if it trades in one direction up into the earnings, we'll probably hold. I mean, I'm thinking we're going to hold through earnings. If we do get a depreciation this week, maybe cover just more so as a relief for the 3 days, like if we have a move down, just any sort of relief from that movement. But we are looking rather bearish on this daily. Again, expecting kind of a move down for a 2 to 3 day move into the rest of the week here. But we will see what happens. Over on SanDisk, I think we got a little break here. Again, still not really a break. I'm thinking more and more double top is right up here. So we'll go ahead and call that tentatively. But again, not really trying. 2 shares is my full share size here. So we're cooped a little bit. Nothing really to comment on. Again, still right in this range. But after an extreme momentum move, each day we say nothing really happening, still not channel, we're certainly losing momentum. So overall, again, looking like should be able to, again, secure this into the profit. There was no real way to cover in the morning or dance around if we wanted to, and just kind of sideways. So looking for another move, getting back down into here and hopefully lower than the 2286 as well. Setup looks decent for that, but we will see. Overall, anything else? Who was on? We had Liz Taylor on there. Mike Santoli, again, kind of a positive little sentiment day. I don't know, one of those days where there's not much to comment. And so we will see how the State of the Union goes tonight and see any reactions or thoughts when that happens. So that is it for now. See you later. Wednesday, February 25th, 2:34 p.m. What's up, everybody? Checking in with our trading vlog. We are currently looking at American Eagle, I did not do anything on the open, or again, this is past the lunch trade itself. So just catching back up. This is our main focus trade is American Eagle, just trading the cyclicality. I'm thinking, hey, stock market's been going up for 3 years, going on to 4 years, and this has had some short-term stimulus. So with any downturn with the market or with any stock-specific news, I expect this to go lower. Nothing crazy, but that is the trade we are trying to execute. And so yesterday closed. Again, this 23 closed a bit, and we were up maybe about $70 at the close. Could have tried to, again, dance around, because, again, the actual dollar figures, again, anything plus or minus, really, again, like $50 is something I would like want, a dollar amount that would be like, hey, let's do something. But if it's not practical to the trade we're trying to execute, there's no point. And so, because we're not really trying to trade for money, we don't want to lose any money, but that's kind of our mindset for executing this trade. So we opened up, again, nothing really. Our entry price is not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. And so we've moved a little bit past our entry. The channel, again, to me is really just this floor. That's what we were saying yesterday, previous support. If you want to call it this, with this stock specifically, to me this is just wonky action altogether. But regardless, we'll call that support. And then it breaks through that, and now, that's kind of the level where it becomes resistance back to the upside. So I just kind of viewed like the terminology, momentum channels. Here's this price action from 22 to 24, 22 as, 3 days, and sitting here watching it, I have a feel like, what is a big move in comparison to how it's been trading. And so nothing really to comment on specific to American Eagle. Again, we did move a little bit. You can even see that kind of intraday support and resistance kind of playing out right here. Again, we channel up until about 11:15 a.m. You can clearly see this little chunk, and we pop up a little bit, and then right where we were channeling at the top becomes our bottom over here. And so now we're trailing kind of upward. It's not going upward in a way where, to me, this is just, I don't even say fluctuation. This is just like no volume. Nothing's really going on. This is kind of floating along. And so if we look at the daily, again, it does look bearish. Again, certainly anything under this 24.48, and then certainly anything, if any close lower than it's certainly at right now is bearish, and then in general, pretty much anything below the 24.48. But regardless, not much going on over here. So SanDisk, I saw Jim Cramer, which overall, again, just I'll comment on what I consider their economic maturity or trading understanding, I guess, when they come up, like the different actual hosts. Because, again, these are people that I've watched for a substantial amount of time. Specifically, Scott Wapner, again, just like when I think about getting braces, when I had braces in like 7th grade, CNBC would always be up there, and I was just like, what are these numbers? But not really what are the numbers, but the big thing that I always remember as a younger person is like, how does 1% really matter? And then it's like, okay, well, you're dealing with a lot of money. 1% could be like $10 million in 5 seconds. It's awesome. But point being is Jim Cramer I just have nightmares from, because him and Stephen A. Smith are the two people that I just remember being on the TV just screaming at everything. Just screaming. So overall, I don't have anything against Jim Cramer, but he's just a really short dude that screams a lot. And I was just like, what is going on with this cat? But regardless, he said he would not short SanDisk, or he said something to the effect of, I'll pray for your funeral, or certainly very bullish. So we have 2 shares short here. Certainly within this channel, again, technicals don't really mean much to me at all to any stock, but you certainly look at them. Kind of floating back up. We're still in this range where it's just indecisive, extreme appreciative move, but we're consolidating. And again, each day we get away from the momentum, we don't have the previous momentum, which could be good or bad, right? You get a new news pop. NVIDIA is the big stimulus today, which Brian Sullivan actually made me laugh. He said, he got on the turn of the whatever their show is, CNBC's different segments, and he's like, happy NVIDIA earnings day, everybody, which that actually made me laugh out loud. But point being is that we'll have some kind of, sector adjacent, maybe sector specific, under this umbrella of AI, specifically to memory chips. I make a car, it has some sort of memory.
10 gigabytes, whatever, right? That's, to me, a very concrete, that is what we're talking about. And so we certainly have stimulus for NVIDIA, stock specific, certainly stimulus for the overall technology subsector, AI subsector, memory kind of something. And then, so we should have some sort of move on SanDisk off of NVIDIA's earnings. But now what's going to happen? Are we going to beat earnings, raise guidance, and have stock depreciate? Are we going to have beat earnings, raise guidance, and appreciate more? Are we going to have any combination of just going sideways, any combination of going down? And what does that mean? What do I do? Right? And so to me, this is just be, if you had some sort of opinion, I don't, again, I'm not a company I really follow. You talk about it all the time. Brian Sullivan's emphasizing how much it makes of the S&P and the QQQ again, but just everything, you can't not avoid tech exposure. And then so it's just like, I don't know. And so I would imagine, I'd imagine you get a slight pop, but then again, these are the type of moves when you have these earnings report, you get this, you definitely get volume injection, right? You might go up and down, you might go sideways, but more people are trading around earnings than other times. And so you get the volume injection. You might get volatility because of that volume. Is that volume going to last, right? We pop up, let's say big old beat, and we all-time high. Let's see what's all-time high is over here. Well, we hit all-time high, and we start trading at 220 tomorrow, and then we trade down to 215. And then by the time, again, when we're sitting here watching all these short-term fluctuations, we'll be on, if NVIDIA beats and it's up tomorrow, we'll be on at, and then it comes down from the initial open, from the morning trade, 11:15, it'll still be up, everyone's going crazy, NVIDIA's going great, and the actual trade you could have executed was shorting that appreciation from the pre-market, I don't want to say momentum for pre-market, but of going upward appreciation of the pre-market. Typically, again, shorting any sort of earnings beat, or just the opposite side, right? If something beats earnings and goes down really low, like IBM the other day, which wasn't earnings, it was just kind of intraday, that Anthropic came out and some sort of, again, competition maybe taking over your business sector, so IBM goes down real short or real fast, and then we would have played the relief of IBM, which that's probably, I think I just saw this morning. And so that would have been something I would have closed, intraday after like the morning trade, but it would have been a good hold up until now. The point being is just you get this extreme drop off, and that's all we're really doing is just, it is what it is, whatever things are trading at, price to earnings, so on and so forth, but extreme changes, right? We wait for the price action to happen. We kind of assess, what is going on, what's the new stimulus, what's the stock stimulus, what's going on in the market, why do we think this thing is going on or moving? And then on top of that, which I put more emphasis on than I see people talk about on TV, is do we even have certainty that this economic event causes this price action movement? Which a lot of times I'm not even convinced. Sometimes I would say 40%, I'm just like not convinced at all. 60%, it's like, okay, it seems direct enough where, again, Anthropic announces some sort of, I forget what the exact technology is, but affects IBM really severely, so it goes where you can say that announcement caused that movement. And so, and then 40%, it's just kind of like, well, I don't know. But regardless, that was kind of like the relief type of play. But point being is, back to NVIDIA, they report earnings. Whatever happens with the price action, again, overall, again, this is not a stock I've followed, again. When I'm saying stock-specific sentiment momentum channels, that's literally me sitting here watching this shit jump up and down all day. And so not a stock I've watched. It seems to be, again, rather consolidated. These super mega cap, this is the most valuable company out there. So it's like, are we going to have price discovery for the super high end? Which, again, I don't see why that couldn't happen. It's not an investment or a trade I would make. Do we just have most likely just some sort of mix, probably almost certainly beat earnings, but is that going to cause a positive reaction or just a slight upward reaction to which we immediately sell off in the morning? That's going to be my most likely scenario. I'm not going to trade it at all. But we will almost certainly get some sort of re-jiggle around here in SanDisk. And so if it does get positive momentum, this could be another good stimulus for SanDisk to go up to the upside. So back to Jim Cramer's statement. again, I'm not super bearish on SanDisk, as you can tell by my 2 whole shares. But this is again a size. Okay, Nvidia comes out and beats, or this memory cycle lasts again into the summer, right? I can hold if it goes up to $1,000, $2,000 a share even. You'd be down $1,400. Like, it's not going to trigger anything to change. I wouldn't like that. That'd be depreciation in my account. Dollar go down. Brad's sad, but it wouldn't affect the trade. I still think this range, because this momentum channel, if we do appreciate to 1,000 or 2,000, we're gonna have again that huge volatility kind of swinging, boing, boing, boing. But regardless, whenever this trade retraces, I think this is a level where I'm comfortable it's going to be lower than this at some point. And with a position size so small, where if it goes, cataclysmic, which again would be like $1,500 a share, you see depreciation that you don't realize, up to about $1,500 if it were to go to $2,000, or again just whatever. But point being is this whatever reaction, I'm just going to hold through here. Anytime, again, I'm way more into preserving profit tightly with stop losses, and then not getting overexposed into any position I take, because you're doing as much analysis as you can to have is this going to go up or down, but then it's just going to do it's just going to do its thing. And so you control that by just not overextending, not trying to go for the home run. You can get into positions where you can extend, like again, I have 1.8 in buying power. Like if a trade were, if I got on the right side of a good momentum trade intraday, I would probably use most of it. But again, only on a stock that's trading with liquidity that I know. And I wouldn't even say momentum. Like if I were to use a big position, it would probably be more, I could just go find something that is appreciated with momentum, that is well past any sort of stimulus, that's just kind of, plodding down. Lower volume, just not crashing by any means, not huge volatility. We're not even talking about it on CNBC. We're just kind of going slowly lower. And so that would be a type of trade that I would use leverage on, or just again, I don't think I have had any point in time in trading when I had leverage exposed overnight. Always with the open market liquidity available, and I just don't see I do not see any need to take extreme risks. If you want to have the chance to have that extreme appreciation, go find something you think is going to beat earnings. Your call options are your best bet there. And that's kind of equivalent as well with penny stocks. It's just, that what instruments are available to have extreme appreciation to make a lot of money quickly, if that's what you're trying to do. But overall, again, you can make a lot of money if you just don't have some sort of maturity to this, man. And I just see, again, the investor maturity of people going into the market is just so low. But regardless, to the Jim Cramer's comment, I'm not bullish. I personally am bearish. That's why I have a position. And a substantial appreciation would not surprise me with the momentum going on with the actual fundamentals. It's almost certainly overshot the fundamental price relationship. But when does it retrace, right? Because then you could be saying, well, Brad, then why wouldn't you just go long and try to, make that $1,200? I don't think it's going to go to $1,200. I'm just positioning myself in a way where if it does go to $1,200, I don't freak out. I don't even care. And so, because this is one, it's where it's like I'm trading to make this content. It's like I'm not exposing myself into position sizes where it's like, who cares? But again, you don't want to lose money ever. There's just no point. And so that's what's going on. That's what that's how I've prepared Brian Sullivan for Nvidia earnings day, which genuinely made me laugh. But again, for his Brian Sullivan, he kind of, again, I don't want to say there's no one that really jumps out as like super good. Again, I don't know what makes a good trader or economist. It's just like certain things they say, certain bits of sentiment where it's just like seems like I would say like Melissa Lee is more mature than Brian Sullivan. Right? And Brian Sullivan always has his like goofy goober jokes, which some of them are funny. His economic understanding is good. I mean, he's a host on a show, so the environment has assessed him as good. And so I would say Melissa Lee is more economically sound to me than Brian Sullivan. Wapner and Melissa Lee kind of, I would say, about the same. I think Scott's a little more direct with like the questioning on stuff, but economic understanding, I'd put them about the same, and I've seen both of those faces for about the same amount of time. Josh Brown, that dude. I don't know really where he came from, but he always has like he at least makes decisions. Like you can always respond to decision making. So I like that from him. Who else is on there? Kelly Edwards or Evans? Two last name, first name, Gizmo. Again, another person, good economics. She herself the other day said again, like I aspire to be a day trader, which is I don't see how you have a job like this where you don't at least go through this process of just like looking at this stuff. So that was just kind of weird. But overall, her economics again is all about the same boat. I'd put her a little higher than Brian Sullivan. Brian Sullivan's too much of a goober for me. But how about Joe T? I accidentally called him Joe Kernan. Don't like Joe Kernan. I would say sorry, but fuck you. You're a criminal. Andrew Ross Sorkin's a little too soft. Reading his book, he's way too flowery with his language. So I would put more of like the afternoon hosts. I like them better than the morning hosts. Then in the morning we got Carl, Mike Santoli, and David Favor, and then Jim Cramer's still screaming. Jim is always just screaming. And so, I think Carl Cantonese is probably the best out of those three. Mike Santoli is a little, just again like decision making. They're all competent enough economically. That's what I'm saying. I'm not over here like, oh, I know all of economics or trading. I don't. That's the whole point. And it's just like people are certainly confident on certain things where you can't be, or they don't articulate enough context to say like why you can't be understanding of certain things. And then overall, just like the America great prosper stock market up is still kind of an overarching sentiment where it's just like you're a finance show, like this stuff's gonna jiggle around. How do we make money on this stuff jiggling around? But I would say in the morning host, Carl, Mike Santoli, and David Favor. David Favor to Mike Santoli, again, about the same. I mix them up sometimes. But I would say Carl gets like the best, I don't know, again, decision-making, actionable, articulated statements. I don't know. But again, just some brief thoughts. I don't care if you guys care or not. But overall, again, the investor maturity of everybody just still strikes me as so low, so low. But just brief random aside of Brad's personal opinions that don't really fucking matter. But anyway, elsewhere, again, ladies, not trying to brag here, but I do own 70 shares of Joby under $10. Kind of a big deal. But we did have this appreciation. We've been following this one enough where $10 seems to be, again, another one of these, I don't want to say make or break, but just channels where it will go out of pretty substantially. And so super tight with the stop losses, just having any appreciation immediately. Again, we've been stopped out a couple times, trivial profit. But this will, again, with any sort of tech depreciation over the overall market, this will certainly go down lower. And so I like this. Again, this is just another one I've been following, and I like it. This is one that I would err on going long. If I got into a position, was slightly too big, or just went against me in any capacity, could just hold it and be happy with it. And so we're over here at Joby. How about other people on CNBC? I feel like I didn't talk about the girls. Sarah Eisen's in the morning. She's pretty good. I feel like she pushes back a little more than Santoli and David Favor. How about? I think she was the one from Cincinnati. I think Sarah Eisen. Was it 513? Jesus, Cincinnati. Anybody else? I feel like I'm missing out. Kate Rooney. She's always jolly. She's got a very jolly personality to her. I don't know, but those are more like just like the segment you pop over to a good. What's the one dude? Rick Santelli. That guy, the Bond guy. That guy, another short guy, kind of just screaming, just oozing extreme emotion every single time. It's just like yuck. Steve Leisman. Just your generic younger boomer dad type of character to me. Again, just going on with all of the opinions Brad has that does not matter at all. But overall of the TV shows where, again, it's like I go watch a physicist try to talk about physics and I get AIDS like instantaneously. It's like overall the economic conversation is good from everybody. But I am suing all of you. I mean, that's the furthest thing from a joke. Let's pop over here. Here's another little thing we should check in. Let's check in the United States Constitution. Oh, look at that. You still have the right to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors or inventors their exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. All of these businesses we're over here trading, they can get intellectual property. They can get a patent. Oh man, I almost know a guy who has a patent. Oh man. And then I might even have a business partner that looks like this guy right here. Robert Hemphill. And look at that. He's a personal injury attorney. So when your constitutional rights, such as this one, get violated, you can call a guy like this. Oh, what do you know? He's already my business partner. In contract right now. Where's my money? Oh, we still don't... The Constitution, we were just having the State of the Union yesterday. We love America. Where is our freedom? It's right here. Let's do a refresh. Let's see if it changes. Nope, it's still there. That's crazy. That's crazy how that works. Let's check the Fifth Amendment. Let's see how that one's going. What is this? It also guarantees the due process of law before depriving somebody of life, liberty, or property, and mandates just compensation for private property taken for public use. Huh. So when I can go onto YouTube and see everyone talking about my property, that means it's been distributed. Where's my compensation? Huh. I must have missed that one. That one didn't come through. But that's the direct verbiage I cite. But it even says depriving somebody without due process of life, liberty, or property. I focus on the property. Life or liberty. Just living life. Can I live life? I live at my parents' house. So no. Can I go to the grocery store and afford food? No. Wow. Again, then I'm back over here. Oh, look, I got a new message. An automated live chat. I can talk to my own business partner. How fantastic. That's super fun. Well, let's try the Fifth Amendment. Let's do a quick refresh on this one. Oh, yep, that one didn't change either. And so again, I'm making a joke of it, but I'm also not joking. Like, what the fuck is this? Why can't people just give me a little bit of money? And that's my overall purpose to all of the video content I am putting out. That is how clear as day my rights have been violated for a decade. And again, now let's go over to my YouTube channel. Oh, look at there. We have a complete logical structure, 295 parts, step-by-step of deriving all of analysis. That's the entire scientific method, boys and girls. If you had a point of realization and said, I want to describe that, and you already live in a world with words, and English was the language for science, I've already proven it all and derived it, and it's right there. Whoop, there's more property. Whoop. And so it's just like, oh, awesome. You know, this is. Oh, but I get to watch these numbers jiggle around, and so that's fun stuff. Really, really, really exciting stuff over here. So, and again, but it does point me. Like, I manage money in a way that is like optimal to try to make money, and I have done over the past 10 years. And so, like, where everybody else to me is, it's just like, again, the pretty lady that gets on CNBC the other day, and she's like, the Dow Jones, the nasty day with Dow Jones and Scott Wapner. It's like, again, they were born into a family, then they went to school, then they got a job. There was no point of, like, being removed from society. Not to say that you should, and that's the point of the law. But you just, once you get pushed out of society, your concept of risk tolerance and it's just like, this is a different universe. If you're again, your biggest concern is like losing your dollar bills that you consentfully signed up to trade, as opposed to, again, being directly deprived of your rights, your life, liberty, and property, and then, like, at the same time having no societal support whatsoever. And then you're over here just like, yeah, I'm gonna try to make money with a chunk of money that is still meaningful, but in reality, to stabilize cash flow, you go get a job. And like, that's like, you can't live a life in a world like this. And so, and again, my resume. Here is my resume. Here is all of my property, which again would establish an entire university. Woo, look at all these videos. These are all analytical steps of a math. Again, it's not even a math subject. This is all of logic. This is logical structure. It is well past what mathematics is. Wow, this is fun. I love America. That was so much freedom. And so I always had to pop in back there, trying to keep this as much to, again, because I don't even like to bog down with my intellectual content, because there's going to become a time when this stuff resolves, whether I'm alive or not, and I just want my work to be my work, not me having to cite law every single video. But regardless, we did get a little appreciation on Jemmy. We just, again, this was I might average down a little more, certainly not now. But I averaged, again, we had 30 shares, so it got a good chunk for another couple, maybe $100. So just trying to bring that price average down. We did have the Kalshi poly market hype for one day. We got to the speculation boosty thing. But point being is like in recent memory, we now have a price level that we're kind of close to. So again, this is a stock where we can comment on, okay, when against us, how do we manage this? And frankly, there's not much to say. I had a small position, not a position size that's meaningful to me in any way. You kind of forget about it. It goes way into the toilet, and then you slowly just average to bring that down. You get a pop, then you liquidate. Again, in my opinion, if you think this is going to turn around, this could be a good buy. I mean, this could be a very good buy. To me, this is going to have, again, it's the Winklevoss's, some sort of crypto exchange play, which I still think is there. I mean, I'm not going to, I'll do a whole other video on the crypto, kind of my, just currency development, but that hasn't changed much. Like literally nothing I've said changes much. But if and I do personally think there will be appreciation. I don't think what is it at now? Like 65,000 a coin. I don't see it going much lower. If it does, it won't be that surprising. Michael Saylor's not going to get margin called. Not worried about. I don't care about Michael Saylor at all. But again, just like the whole novelty of the conversation around Bitcoin, as I've said multiple times, makes no sense to me pretty much the whole time. And so regardless, this could be a stock where, again, for my personal situation of having a super small position, made sense to average down just to bring that price action down or price average down if we get some appreciation, sell out of the shares or just kind of hold it. And so for any company that I don't think is going to go to zero, kind of getting back to something I referenced a long time ago, which is building a nest egg of like, not the concept you hear about having a little bit of money, but if having all of my appreciation be converted into or just holding shares. And so if I buy, let's just use this as an example. If I were to buy at $5 and it goes up to $10, right, I can sell half of my share size, recoup all of my currency, all of my liquidity, all of my dollar bills that I initially invested, and then still have those shares. Kind of like overall building a portfolio to the long position. That's what I would want to do, is active management around your entries. Get into a position where, because again, let's say it goes from $5 to $6, or again, $10 to $11, and the shares are $1 a share. Then you can hold one share. And so it doesn't need to be half or 100%, just some proportion where you can have effectively free shares. And so and that's something I excuse me, would like to do, or again, just overall, if I was trying to construct a portfolio. Me on a personal level, I'm just making some content. Again, when I can literally just pull up pictures of the law and it's just like a fucking joke. And again, the quality of research that is sitting on the internet now is very legitimately the entire scientific method. If you want to use language and describe something, you're going to run into all of my theorems. And it's been that way for a decade. Why can't somebody just put a couple zeros on this number? It's my money. I'm not asking for something I didn't earn. It's my money. It's my fucking money. But regardless, because again, there's so much content to discuss in finance, and I want to. It's just like I'm still at the process where it's like I only spend so much time on given things to go work on other things. And it's all because I have no sense of personal identity where I put myself out into the world and then, yeah, hey, Brad's a mathematician. He solved all of math like multiple times. That would qualify me as being a mathematician, for fuck's sake. Ugh. Sorry, I'm not trying to swear that much. But regardless, then Joby, again, we just covered that one. The QQI ads, again, we added a little bit to these index funds, turning out to be pretty good ads, again, if this holds. But these are things I'm probably going to get illegally extorted, and that is so present in my mind. Again, just one, I don't file taxes. I have no tax obligation. I don't have constitutional rights. This country was built on no taxation without representation. And again, it's a practical step. Right? My whopping $1,500 a month I make is because all of my money is in government bonds. And so I can't take any depreciation of capital, nor do I owe it. That is the most important thing, is I have no tax obligation. Holy fuck, I don't have constitutional rights. Regardless, holy shit. This seems to be a good enough ad if it holds. Again, kind of personally expecting some sort of market retracement overall. Not high conviction. So I have a sizable, this will give me, this in conjunction with the SPYI, is now up to about, again, $200 of monthly income. So So I don't really care about the depreciation. Like if an event like this happens, this is when I would add. Again, that is what most of this money is sitting over here for. Is to add to these funds. And again, I would, and that's without even taking any out of the bonds. If it came down severely, again, like an event like this, I would take some out of the bonds because again, you catch this event and then you have capital appreciation of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and then you're still making, the 10%. You're going to feel great. And so that's kind of, the position you want to get into is get into long positions when these things have extreme retracements, and then it moves away to the upside and you feel fantastic. And conversely, the same, right? If we would have caught American Eagle, but you always have, by the nature of what shorting is, you always have more liability, more thought in your head because this thing can go up to infinity, right? And so if you buy something and you put $10,000 in, you buy it, no margin, you could lose all your money, but you're not going to lose more than you deposited. Shorting, you always have the potential to lose more. And so that's just another added psychological thing. But if we would have caught this with active management, if we would have caught this, our price average price into this 28 or 27, again, all of this conversation we've been having would have been done not right around our entry price plus or minus $50, but at a profit of like $450, $500. So then, again, that's what I'm saying is we have this move, and now this again, we're at 3:06 p.m. But this section right here, again, it keeps looking more bearish and bearish technically, where it's like if I wanted to take a bigger position, you have a stock where you have appreciation. If I would have had a good price average, frankly, this is not a stock I would have taken too big of a position, but maybe. I mean, it's not out of the consideration, but it would have been typically intraday. But you have appreciation, and then it gives you reasonable wiggle room, right? Because if I could, right, in theory, I could put up a order and say I want to sell 1 million shares at 24.13, but I want to buy them back immediately if it even kind of thinks about going away from that, so I lose $0, right? You can't do that. Like there's no practical way to execute that, and so that's why we're talking about this reasonable fluctuation of a given price action. And so, but if you have this back weighting, whether to the long side or to the short side, and it's you're in profit, you can take a more aggressive size, and your price average will be weighted by what you had previously. So that's why all of my position sizes, like I said, are enough to be something if it immediately goes in my favor, and if it doesn't going to cause me any sort of psychological stress, with the intention that it goes into profit a little bit, and then you add into the size tremendously intraday with the available liquidity, tight stop losses, trailing stop losses, and then that's when I would extend myself with leverage. And so hopefully we get into a position where I can do that and show you a fun trade. But as I've said, I don't have constitutional rights. And so the minute a trade goes against you, you just have to sit and wait. And that could be 18 months, as we've documented and seen, because I don't have constitutional rights. That is what I wanted to cover today, or at least right now. This one's been going on for a little bit. Another topic that I came up on the current conversation on CNBC was international exposure. There was a guy on there talking about South Korea. Certainly a huge, massive topic. I have no specific insight. But again, this momentum, human beings are human beings. Wherever you can find liquidity and volatility, that's where you're going to have the most rapid appreciation. And so international exposure, just as an immediate reaction, tremendously obvious, you should. Right? Like people in Poland are not that much different than people in Brazil. It's just like policy considerations, environment considerations that you're not familiar with, but certainly international exposure, like in an index fund or some sort of construction where you capture the upside internationally. Again, I haven't done there's so many financial products and so many stocks and so many things. And again, I'm not doing this as a full-time job, but which I would do. Again, all of these things that you see on my YouTube channel, I would be doing. And it's just like, okay, if not, I'm going to go on a hike. And so that is what I have for you today. We are at 3:08 p.m. and I'll check in later.